Senator, welcome back here. You were surprised, I understand, that House Republicans killed SB 10 there. You said no one contacted you ahead of that vote. What do you think this boiled down to?
Well, it obviously boiled down to House politics to some degree. When you have a bill that will uh, cut taxes in 52 counties and 57 cities across the state, you have to be surprised that without notice, 27 Republicans vote with 44 Democrats, and the conference committee report is literally turned down in the House. And that's a sad thing because that means that next year, not this year, because we're going to have some really good property tax relief on schools, but next year it means in those cities and counties, tax rates are going to stay too high, and they're not, and folks are not going to get the property tax relief they could have if SB 10 had passed. And quite frankly, this is up to about 24 Republican freshmen that made that decision.
And this bill would have reduced how much cities and counties can raise their property taxes from 3.5% cap to 2.5% cap for cities and counties. You guys have already addressed the school taxes. I don't remember the last time, though, Republicans anywhere passed up a chance to lower property taxes. Do you think those Republicans wanted something specific that you wouldn't give?
Well, look, the first off, let's frame the problem. City and county taxes since 2019 have been growing like this. They're growing 3 times faster than school taxes. So that's why there's a problem. So when the governor put that on the call to look at city and county taxes, great. The answer is to lower the voter approve rate because that's 29.5% of a cut. So this is not small potatoes over the long term. And the first time I heard that they were having a problem with the bill was literally when they walked to the mic and Steve Toad, who's a representative from the Woodlands, basically said that this isn't enough. The problem with that theory is that you never do anything until you had the perfect answer. And for some of this crew, the perfect answer is zero taxes. But we're not going to get there that way. The right thing to do with policy is to do it, especially tax policy. You got to do it incrementally. And an amendment the prior week had basically opened up the bill to where it claimed it was a 1% cap, but it had uncapped almost 60 to 80% of the tax levy, and it was unlimited tax increase. So you can't do tax increases on the fly. Otherwise, you're just, literally strapping a suicide vest to the taxpayers because you haven't put pencil to paper and know what you're actually voting up or down.
You've heard the Republicans who've said, listen, it's time for the state to do more than lower the growth of property taxes. It's time to actually cut these so property owners see a significant decrease in what they pay. Well, what's your reaction to that? And is it feasible? Because who doesn't want that?
Well, look, everybody wants tax relief. And since 2019, we put in $51 billion into lowering school taxes. For the over 65s, their taxes no longer go up. They go down every year. And the public is going to vote, we think, I believe 90% overwhelmingly, to lower their property tax bills by increasing their homestead exemption to 140,000, then adding on 60,000 for over 65 and disabled homeowners. So it's an anti recognizing the obvious that you want to do what you can when you can, because to eliminate all property taxes everywhere in the state is $86 billion a year. That's almost the entire discretionary portion of the Texas budget. And we don't have a statewide property tax, so we can't just make these changes like that.
So what do you tell these? Because I'm sure you have constituents like that there in Houston who might agree with some of these farther right members who are like, well, how do we get there? If we don't want to take, this incrementally, how do I lower my property taxes so I see it, physically go down?
Well, the first thing is go vote for increasing the homestead exemption. It's going to be right there on the ballot in November.
In November, yeah.
Right. Then flip over your tax bill and look at the numbers. See, when I'm having a discussion with Representative Tinderholt, I'm not inventing how fast county and city taxes are. We've got the data. We know exactly how fast they're going up. And if we're not going to recognize the obvious of the data, then we're missing the point. The bill was exactly designed to slow those two cities and counties down because the state would never be able to pass something that says, okay, basically stop all expenditures, increases whatsoever in local government. It just won't ever go that way. But more importantly, that there's nothing wrong with an incremental approach because it gets results. And all you have to do is see your state property tax, aka the school tax, because we don't have a state property tax, but you can see the result of the state pouring in tens of billions of dollars on your school tax. It used to be the school tax was the gigantic portion of your bill. Now, in many cities, the combined city and county rates are higher than the school tax rate. So we're trying to attack, SB 10 was trying to attack the problem because we've done so well lowering the other taxes that the cities and counties are now actually more than 50% of the bill on many bills now.
Wow. Since the House killed SB 10, have you spoken to any of the Republicans who led that charge, Steve Toth or Mitch Little or Tony Tinderholt?
They voted no. And then I immediately started calling them and say, please come visit. We brought them over to the Senate. And because I wanted them to hear from other senators. I didn't want them just to hear from me.
Sure.
And they had problems with the fact that there was a bracket on the bill, that this was for the basically anything but a small taxing unit. They had a question about whether MUDs could be involved, and we talked to them what the water code says, and they can't be involved the way this bill was laid out. But the problem is, and the real point was this, Jason, I said, look, we're out of time because the Speaker and Lieutenant Governor, they want to sign and die Wednesday night. I was scoffed at that point. Like, oh, that's not going to happen. That's not real. The problem is if you're going to walk into a legislature and vote no, especially with the Democrats who, no offense, they're not going to pass a bill like this. I couldn't get a Democrat in the Senate to slow county and city taxes in 50 days. Okay. No one would support it. So if you go make that decision, you should talk to the Senate author or talk to your leadership in the House. Yeah. Because once you cross that Rubicon, there's not enough time to fix it. And so we missed the opportunity, but it's not because it's because of a vote in the House, not because of a vote in the Senate.
But how did that meeting go though? When you had them over, who was it over there? Toth and Tinderholt and Mitch Little or someone else? Yeah,
right. Okay. Nate too. I mean, it was the three of them.
Sure.
And so here's what it started with. It started with Senator Paxton, Senator Hall, Senator Nichols saying the caucus in the Republicans have already met and we have settled on the 75,000 population bracket. And then Senator Nichols said there's a lot of the caucus that wants to go to 100. And Representative Tinderholt, Representative Toth said, well, we want it lower. And then the crowd got bigger. And then I've got Senator Middleton, Senator Creighton. We're up to 8 or 9 people, by that point in time, because everybody on the Senate side had been working this for 50 days. Yeah. We had taken the public testimony. We had talked to our county judges. A lot of them are not big fans of a bill like this, you can imagine.
Sure.
Okay. And so the senators knew the issue really well. And the problem is if you go up and cowboy an amendment, quite frankly, like Representative Patterson did, without even putting pencil to paper on what he thought was a 1%, limit, which turned out to be unlimited. You can't even get good public policy. And then you've got a political issue because we couldn't accept the bill that way it was. If we got down to the last wire and I've got to look at, well, does the Senate concur or not? I can't possibly pass a bill that's a tax increase. So it's disappointing because you always want to make progress when you can. And this is tens of millions of taxpayers get a break out of this bill. It's not something small because the top counties and cities are the lion's share of the property tax accounts in the state.
What was your reaction when you saw Toth go to that back microphone and start discussing this?
Well, I was trying to get him on the phone. Okay.
Okay,
Well, no, and I was trying to get
sure.
Representative Tinderall on the phone and trying to get Representative Little on the phone because, again, in my statement, I made it real clear, and I made it real clear to them on the floor that what really disappointed me was no phone call. Now, to Representative Tinderholt's defense, he apologized and said we should have. But the
Hmm.
problem is once you nuke a conference committee report, the only solution is to reconsider
Yeah,
because you don't have time to recommit one
right.
within 24 hours because you're going to sine die.
Mm. Hey, before I let you go, do you expect a third special session by any chance on any issue?
Well, at this point in time, no one is advised. Okay.
All right.
But I am happy with the flood warning siren system bill that's going to be able to be up. That was my bill and be running
Sure.
in the flash flood alley. We had a great education reform, which is between the Chairman Buckley and I, getting rid of the STAR test and reinforcing the A through F system. That's transformational all its own. A lot of good bills passed this session. More property tax relief didn't. So we'll see what happens in the future. But go vote in November for the
Yeah.
school tax exemptions because that's going to be in your bill. You're going to see how much it saves you when you get tax bill before you vote.
Yeah, we'll definitely be talking about that as we close in November. Senator, always appreciate the time.
Great. See you, Jason. Bye.